What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. I'm going to continue my conversation with you concerning the complete history of boxing. On a Monday night, May 25th, 1951, World Lightweight Champion Trent Thunder, 7-year reign king, Ike Williams, was knocked out in 14 rounds by South Carolina's Harlem, New York, Jimmy Carter. Ike Isaiah Williams was born August 2nd, 1923 in Brunswick, Georgia. He died September 5th, 1994 in Trenton, New Jersey. Now, he was managed by Frankie Carbo and Blinky Palermo, as well as Eddie Mead. He fought the likes such as Bo Jack, Bob Montgomery, Juan Zarita, and Sammy Ingot. Ike Williams stood 5'9.5" weighed 128 to 155 pounds. Jimmy Carter stood 5'7", weighed 130 to 145 pounds. Now, Jimmy Carter, his name was James Walter Carter, born December 15, 1923 in Aiken, South Carolina. He died September 21st, 1994 in Harlem, New York. He fought from March 14, 1946 to April 1st, 1960. He fought the likes of Patty DeMarco, Wallace Bud Smith, Don Jordan, and Laura Solis. Orlando Zulueta, Phil Burton, Sandy Sadler, and Del Flanagan. Percy Bassett, Charlie Riley, Tommy Collins, Carlos Chavez, Enrique Bolanos, Luther Rawlings, and Art Oregon. Ike Williams, Bobby Ruffin, Enrique Bolanos, Fritzy Putin, Rob Zanelli, Joe Maselli, Kid Gavilan, Johnny Bratton, Lester Felton, my God. You talk about fighters from the 1940s and the 1950s in the lower divisions. That was boxing at its best. Men would put the guards up and find out who was well prepared, who wanted it more. Boxing was boxing. Now, Jimmy Carter, once again, I want to make it clear. He stood 5'6", had a 68-inch reach. May 25th, 1951, he knocked out world lightweight champion Ike Williams, New York's Madison Square Garden. He would win the New York Sack and the NBA, as well as the ring belt, lightweight championship title. In his 82nd professional bout, he would lose his world lightweight championship crown, May 14, 1952, to Mexican's Laura Solis, a lightweight out of Mexico. They would fight at the Olympia Auditorium, Los Angeles, California. In his 84th professional bout, he would defeat Laura Solis in 15 rounds, October 15, 1952. They fought in Chicago Stadium. Jimmy Carter would re-win his precious jewels, but then he would lose his World Lightweight Championship title to Patty DeMarco, March 5th, 1954. 15 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden in his 96th professional bout. But on November 17, 1954, Jimmy Carter would become the only man in the lightweight division to become a 3-time unified, undisputed champion. And that was one of the most remarkable things that I've ever heard till this day. Incredible. February 24th, 1953, Jimmy Carter would drop Tommy Collins over 8 times. Boston Garden Arena. He would defend his New York Sack and NBA lightweight championship crown. He would take on Glenn Flanagan and Tony DeMarco, Orlando Zulueta, and Cisco Andres. He would lose his NBA New York Sack lightweight championship crown at the Boston Garden Arena on the evening of June 29, 1955, 15 rounds to Wallace Bud Smith. He took on Art Aragon, who was known as the Golden Boy, November 14, 1951, in front of 7,251 spectators. Fought him at the Olympia Stadium. The contest lasted 15 rounds. Jimmy Carter had a record of 125 total bouts, 85 wins, 34 knockouts. He was a remarkable fighter. Jimmy Carter. April 18, 1945, Ike Williams would become the first black boxer to become the NBA World Lightweight Champion since Henry Armstrong did it in 1938 in New York's Madison Square Garden. He would defeat Lou Ambers in 15 rounds. The last 5 rounds, he would swallow his own blood, pleading the referee not to stop the contest. Williams would defeat Mexico's Wanderita, 2 rounds, Mexico City, in his 73rd professional bout. He faced Willie Joyce 4 times. He would lose 1, and he would lose 3 and win 1. January 20th, 1946, he faced Chicago's Johnny Bratton. He was in the ring with Cleo Shane, Freddie Dawson, and Sammy Ingot. He fought Johnny Bratton 9 rounds with a broken jaw. Willie Joyce and Ike Williams would fight 4 times. Ike Williams would win 1. Willie Joyce would win 3. Just wanted to clear it up. These were some great fighters in the lower division. Jimmy Carter, Ike Williams. Amazing. July 18th, 1951, the World Heavyweight Champion, Cincinnati Cobra, Ezzard Charles, is knocked out in 7 rounds by Jersey Joe Walcott in what was seen as the perfect and upsetting left hook. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Referee was Buck McIntyre. He stopped the contest 55 seconds of the 7th round. The contest took place in Forbes Field. Walcott would become the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history at that time, at the age of 37. Ezzard Charles stood 6 foot, weighed 160 to 204 pounds, walked into the ring that evening weighing 182 pounds. Jersey Joe Walcott stood 6 foot. He weighed 158 pounds to 201 pounds, walked into the ring that evening weighing 194 pounds. Now, Charles would pass through the opponents of Jimmy Bivens, Charlie Burley, Archie Moore, Lloyd Marshall, Jersey Joe Walcott, Joe Louis, Booker Beckworth, and Sammy Baruti, Elmer Violet Ray, Oakland Billy Smith, Bob Satterfield, and Harold Johnson, Rocky Marciano, Rex Lane, Harry Kid Matthews, and Paul Andrews, Johnny Holman, Coley Wallace, Nino Valdez, and Tommy Harrison, Charlie Norcus, Frank Buford, Ken Overland, Joey Maxim, Anton Christopheridis, just to name a few. Walcott past opponents was Tiger Jack Fox, Elmer Violet Ray, Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepherd, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Jimmy Bivens, and Harold Johnson. In the evening of Friday, October 26, 1951, 12-year heavyweight championship reign, 25 title defenses, 17 years as a pro, 10 former champions, was upset by the up-and-coming Brockton blockbuster, Rocky Marciano, Madison Square Garden, in 8 rounds. Of course, I'm talking about the Bron Bomber, Joe Louis. Now, Joe Louis stood 6 foot, 1.5 inches, weighed 214 pounds, had a 76-inch reach, had a record of 66 wins, 2 losses, 52 knockouts. He earned $132,000 that evening. Rocky Marciano stood 5 foot 10.5 inches, weighed 184 pounds, with a 68-inch reach. He had a record of 37 wins, 32 knockouts, no losses, and earned $44,000 that evening. The referee was Ruby Goldstein. He had it 2-4. Judge Harold Barnes had it 3-4. And Joe Agnell had it 2-5. They felt that Rocky Marciano was winning the match. Rocky Marciano knocks out Joe Louis in the 8th round at New York's Madison Square Garden in front of 17,241 very heartbroken spectators. They invested $152,845. $185,000 was invested in radio and television rights for the promotion. Joe Louis signed with John Roxborough, Julian Black. They were racketeers from Detroit. They would be his financial backers between June 22nd, 1937, March 1st, 1949. Joe Louis would be the heavyweight champion of the world, only the second black fighter to do so. 22 world heavyweight champion opponents, 20 knockouts, 10 world champions. He was a ring fighter of the year, 1936, 1938, 1939, and 1941. He had no draws, 69 fights. Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, perhaps the greatest heavyweight champion in his era. Second black fighter to accomplish that feat. He will be missed. He gave the boxing community something to look forward to. Every evening, he strapped on gloves. 1938 couldn't have been a better year for black fighters. Joe Louis was the Brown Bomber, the second black heavyweight champion in boxing history. He took on that major responsibility of taking on Germany's Max Schmeling. The burden was all his because he had to redeem himself from being knocked out 12 rounds in 1936. The light heavyweight champion was John Henry Lewis, black fighter, who would take his crown from Bob Olin in 1935. The welterweight champion, lightweight champion, and featherweight champion was Henry Armstrong. Charlie Burley was the colored welterweight champion. All black fighters. First time that has ever happened. Perhaps the greatest and most remarkable year for black fighters in all of boxing. March 13th, 1952. The first World Middleweight Championship title defense. Ray Robinson would defend his World Middleweight Championship crown against Carl Bobo Olsen, 15 rounds, San Francisco, California. The referee was Jack Dollery. Robinson was a 10-1 favorite. 10,033 spectators together would pay $63,053 at the Civic Auditorium for this contest. Carl Bobo Olsen was 23 years old. He stood 5 foot 10 and a half inches. He was a middleweight and light heavyweight with a 70-inch reach. He had a record of 48 wins, 5 losses, and 25 knockouts. That's for Ray Robinson. He was 30 years old. He stood 5 foot 11 inches. He was the world champion. Had a 72.5-inch reach with a record of 130 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, and 86 knockouts. Carl Bobo Olsen, Carl Elmer Olsen, was born July 11th, 1928, in Honolulu, Hawaii. He died January 16th, 2002, just 73 years of age at the time of his rest. Fought from 1944 to 1966. Ended his career with a record of 115 total bouts, 97 wins, 16 losses, 46 knockouts. He was stopped 7 times. October 15th, 1952, Jimmy Carter, world lightweight champion. He would defeat the lightweight Laura Solis, 15 rounds in Chicago. They fought 4 times, 55 rounds combined. James Walter Carter, Jimmy Carter. What a fighter he was. Wednesday, April 16th, 1952. World middleweight champion Sugar Ray Robinson knocks out former world middleweight champion Rocky Graziano in the third round at the Chicago Stadium. Referee was Tommy Gilmore. He counts out Rocky Graziano 1 minute and 53 seconds of the third round. After the loss of Joey Maxim in 1952, Robinson regains his title and has his second bout of his second reign of the middleweight championship crown. 22,254 spectators collectively grossed $252,237.66. Robinson stood 5 foot 11 inches, weighed 157 pounds, had a 72.5-inch reach with a record of 131 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, and 86 knockouts. He collected $82,208 that evening. He was 30 years old. Now, 33-year-old Rocky Graziano stood 5 foot 7 inches, weighed 160 pounds, had a 68.5-inch reach. He had a record of 67 wins, 8 losses, 6 draws, 52 knockouts, and he collected $68,507. Wednesday, June 25th, 1952, Sugar Ray Robinson suffers from heat exhaustion. Could not complete the fight. Referee was Ray Miller, takes over for Ruby Goldstein in the 10th round. Over 108 degrees heat, New York's Yankee Stadium, was for the World Light Heavyweight Championship. Ray Robinson would take on Joey Maxim. It was after a rain delay, June 23, 1952. 48,968 spectators graced $421.696. Now, they watched Robinson stagger along the ropes. He had to be helped to a neutral corner by his handlers. They brought him back to his corner, and he slumped on a stool. They could see he was fatigued. And it was one of the most remarkable things that you can witness because Robinson won every round. He was 31 years old. He stood 5 foot 11, weighed 157 pounds, had a 72.5-inch reach, had a record of 132 wins, 2 losses, and 87 knockouts. Joey Maxim was 30 years old. He stood 6 foot 1 inch, weighed 173 pounds, had a 71.5-inch reach, and a record of 78 wins, 18 losses, 21 knockouts. It was a sad day in Harlem. The fight was in the Bronx, and Ray would retire. I think if you ask me, 1951, he had 7 fights, 5 different countries. He would lose his crown to Randy Turpin, be the second black fighter of Europe to win a title. Then he would make that big step to the light heavyweight division, fighting in that exhausting heat. That might have been with Dunham Men. Tuesday, September 23rd, 1952, the Brockton blockbuster, Rocky Marciano, knocks out the current world heavyweight champion, Jersey Joe Walcott, in the 13th round, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. One of the most perfect picture-perfect punches in the heavyweight division. The contest took place in a municipal stadium. It would be Walcott's second title defense after winning the title from Ezzard Charles on July 18, 1951 in Philadelphia. After a well-timed right hand, having Walcott's back against the ropes in the 13th round, referee Charlie Doggett counts out Walcott 43 seconds of the second round. 43 seconds of the 13th round that was scheduled for 15. Rocky Marciano becomes the new heavyweight champion of the world. Now, Marciano was 29 years old. He stood 5 foot 10 and a half inches, weighed 185 pounds, and had a 68-inch reach. 42 wins, 37 knockouts. Jersey Joe Walcott was 38 years old. He stood 6 feet, weighed 196 pounds, had a 74-inch reach. 49 wins, 18 losses, 1 draw, and 31 knockouts. Walcott had Marciano down in the first round with a vicious left hook. The same left hook that would win him the title against Ezzard Charles when he was KO'd the Cincinnati Cobra, July 18, 1951 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in 7 rounds. December 17, 1952, Archie Moore defeats Joey Maxim in 15 rounds, St. Louis, Missouri, to become the oldest light heavyweight champion in boxing history, age 39. The contest took place in St. Louis Arena. Referee was Harry Kessler. Archie Moore was born December 13, 1913. He would die December 9, 1998. 219 total bouts, 184 wins, 24 losses, 130 knockouts. Archie Moore would fight for 27 years, 184 wins. He faced all Black Murderers Row fighters. The majority of them with 7 knockouts. Only a man to face Rocky Marciano and Muhammad Ali. Moore stood 5 foot 11 inches, weighed 172 pounds, had a 75-inch reach, had a record of 132 wins, 19 losses, and 9 draws coming into this contest. Joey Maxim stood 6 foot 1 inch, weighed 175 pounds, had a 71.5-inch reach, and a record of 78 wins, 13 losses. Joey Maxim re-entered into the Ring Boxing Hall of Fame in 1975, International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1994. He was born March 28, 1922. Born March 28, 1922 in Cleveland, Ohio. He died June 2, 2001. He was managed by Jack Kearns, West Palm Beach, Florida. Fought from 1941 to 1958. Had a total bout career of 116 contests, 83 wins, 29 losses, 22 knockouts. He was stopped once with 4 draws. Maxim had 3 fights with Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepard, back-to-back fights with Ezzard Charles, October 27th and December 1st, 1942. He was in the ring with Buddy Walker, April 28th, 1944 and 46. Lloyd Marshall, July 27th, 1944. Ralph Dijon, Jersey Joe Walcott. Ralph Dijon was a very good fighter. He was in the ring with Bob Foxwood, Clarence Jones, Pat Valentino, Jimmy Bivens. Fought Jimmy Bivens February 28, 1949. Was in the ring with Freddie Mills, Gus Lesnevich, Ezzard Charles, Irish Bob Murphy. Fought Murphy May 30th, 1951. Ezzard Charles that same year. Wednesday, October 3rd, 1951, Australia's middleweight and light heavyweight champion, Davy Sands, would defeat future world middleweight champion, Hawaiian's Carl Bubba Olsen in Chicago Stadium. The referee was Norm McCarty. Now, the Dave brothers, their real name was Richie. You had Clem, George, Alfie, and Russell. Dave Ritchie, Davy Sands, was born February 4th, 1926, in Birthbridge, New South Wales. He died August 11th, 1952, in Dargard's Hospital. Due to an overturned truck accident, 1949, Davy Sands survived most serious of the motorcycle accidents. Steering failed and rolled into a nearby creek. He stood 5 foot 10 and a half inches, had a record of 98 total bouts, 87 wins, 10 losses, 1 draw, and 52 knockouts. Now, Davy Sands' wedding anniversary, his wife was named Bessie. Bessie Chambers to be exact. She was pregnant. It would be with their fourth child, 7 months. Dave died, 9:45 p.m. And he was being waited for in celebration of that anniversary. His brother Alfie tried to lift up the truck, but it was too heavy. And what was amazing about this episode, they were in the middle of negotiations with Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson was trying to face Maxim to become the light heavyweight champion, so he could face Davy Sands, who was the European light heavyweight champion of Australia. And the market was for the light heavyweight championship division to be unified. It hadn't happened since 1887, when Jake Kilrain would take on Jim Smith. And they would unify the American and England's championship crown. Remarkable. 23-year-old Carl Bobo Olsen stood 5 foot 10 and a half inches, weighed 164 pounds. He had a 70-inch reach. 7 years as a pro, 46 wins, 4 losses, and 25 knockouts. He would earn $100,215, 25% of the gate. Davy Sands was 25 years old, young man, 10 years as a pro. He weighed 164 pounds, had a record of 81 wins, 9 losses, and 47 knockouts. He had a 68-inch reach. What a remarkable fighter Davy Sands was. Many thought he would be the man to defeat Ray Robinson. Carl Bobo Olsen was born July 11th, 1928 in Honolulu, Hawaii. He died January 16, 2002, 73 years old. Fought from 1944 to 1966. Had 115 total bouts, 97 wins, 16 losses, 2 draws, and 45 knockouts. He fought Lloyd Marshall Monday, May 7th, 1951. Wayne Thornton, Johnny Pearsall, Pedro Gonzalez, and Norman Hayes. Jesse Bowdry, Archie Moore, Ray Robinson, Kid Gavilan, Jesse Turner, Joey Maxim. Carl Bobo Olsen was a remarkable fighter as well. Friday, February 10th, 1950, welterweight contender Billy Graham defeats Kid Gavilan 10 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden. The referee was Louis Goldstein. Billy Graham, William Walter Graham Jr., was born September 9, 1922 in New York. He died January 22, 1992, just 69 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in New York. Billy Graham was a pleasure to talk to. Spoke to him several times. Fought from 1941 to 1955. Had 126 total bouts, 102 wins, 15 losses, and 27 knockouts. 9 draws to be exact. Graham was 27 years old. He stood 5 foot 7 inches, weighed 145 pounds, had a 68-inch reach, a record of 83 wins, 5 losses, 6 draws, and 24 knockouts. As for Kid Gavilan, he was 24 years old. He stood 5 foot 10 and a half inches, weighed 145 pounds, and had a 71-inch reach. He had a record of 57 wins, 8 losses, 2 draws, and 17 knockouts. August 29, 1951, Kid Gavilan defends his welterweight championship crown over Billy Graham in New York's Madison Square Garden. The referee was Mark Kahn. Billy Graham weighed 145 pounds. He had 91 wins, 6 losses, and 6 draws. Kid Gavilan weighed 145 pounds. He had 74 wins, 12 losses, and 3 draws. 8,137 fans paid $34,419 to see the contest. On the evening of June 5th, 1950, Ray Robinson knocks out Frenchman Robert Villemain for the Pennsylvania Middleweight Championship crown. It was vacant. Boxing was something else. If you look at the 1940s and 1950s, there were championship fights in every week in every city, from heavyweight to featherweight. And the undercards were spectacular. We'll continue to go through these fights in our next conversation, right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. I want you to thank you for listening. I want you to understand, in your era, when you get a chance to watch fights, when you get a chance to watch championship fights, take it all in because it comes once in a lifetime. I had the pleasure of being at many fights, 500 championship fights, 1,000 combined. And I will remember each and every last one of those fights. I'll remember the press conferences. I'll remember traveling to the fights. I'll remember the programs I had in my hand. I'll remember the events. I'll remember going to the hotels, flying on the planes, taking the trains, driving the car 4 hours to get to a location, just to get an autograph from a fighter if I knew he was going to be at a specific location. Oh, boxing was something else. It was my life. And I enjoy covering these matches with you. Thanks for listening. Be well. Peace.